Hello and welcome to the Newsroom. This is the first edition, I think. We have never done this before. My name is Latrovia, but you may also call me Rorschach. That's my new nation right now. And I'm having with me my friend and colleague, United Australian States, who's one of our newest editors in the Newsroom. How do you do today? Can you hear me?
Hello, how are you doing? Yes, I can. How are you
All right,
today?
I thought I lost you for a second there. I'm okay. I was working all day long, but working from home is the new thing. How are you doing yourself? How's school going? How's
Doing
life?
just fine. I'm doing just good today. Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about the Assembly of Regions and just our thoughts on it, goals, and what we want to see happen in the Assembly regions, not only for our own region, but just also for it at large. Just to start off, what are some things about the Assembly that you think are beneficial not only to our region but also to the game at large?
I think it's actually the AOR is actually an incredible organization in itself. It has first of all the community is amazing. You get to work with so many people from all around the world, and that sort of diversity of opinion and ideas it brings forth actually incredible amounts of things and things that most people don't realize in the beginning when they are on the outside. But when you are on the inside and you're working with so many incredible people in so many different areas, you start to see for the first time what else you could be doing better. What are your thoughts? I mean, you are the newest Councilor of Enadia in the AR.
That's a really good question. I'm glad you mentioned that. Currently, my thoughts on the AOR as a whole, I think it's a good organization specifically to allow our region members to come and to communicate with people around the game in a way that's a little bit more convenient than on site. One of the things I really like about the AOR specifically is that we can have these Discord discussions, debates, conversations with people in a way that just opens up more doors than posting on a RMB chat or telegramming someone.
Hmm.
So one of the big things I also like about this organization is that it allows for our region to have a voice in a larger scale,
Mm-hmm.
not just specifically on the game, but also in off-site chats such as the Discord specifically.
Hmm. It's actually true. One of the things that really impressed me in the beginning when I first joined the AOR, back in days when I mean, I'm kind of like the last president of Enadia in this case here. Now we have a prime minister. When I first joined, one of the things that I really liked was the fact that it was a very well organized, but at the same time professional organization. People really knew how to treat different occasions and different situations, and they were never scared about something that could go wrong or something that it wouldn't work optimally and good in this case here. And that professionalism really striked out to me, and I said like, okay, this organization, they know what they're actually doing. Because before we've been in other organizations, but they kind of fell apart due to so many different minds and so many people, different people want to do their own thing, and they didn't really work out well. But we've been in the AOR for quite some time now, and the first thing that really impressed me was the fact that they were quite professional in what they were doing, and they were taking basically everybody's opinion in consideration, which was amazing. To be fair, that's what you're actually looking always to have in an organization. And I think that we, as a union, as a region, we have benefited strongly from it. And but at the same time, we have contributed incredibly to the organization. And I guess we will keep doing that for quite some time. Actually, there is genuine a lot of interest from
Mm-hmm.
Enadia towards the AOR.
Yeah, I totally agree with the part on contributions specifically. What do you think are some of our region's greatest contributions to this organization?
Well, quite a few in this case here. Recently we have contributed with a bill. If you hear about the One Passport Act, that was the latest bill that we had passed. The bill in this case here allows regions to create a very well-defined border, which not only secures their communications, but at the same time, it most importantly secures their communities. So processing foreign individuals in this case here and finding out where they're coming from, who they're representing, and what they can actually do is the most important thing for every single member of the AOR. My personal guess is that we have contributed greatly in modernizing the facilities of the AOR, specifically the internal chat. We have modernized and created a new learning program, so the new module has much more focus towards the students and towards collective cooperation. And we have assisted our members. For example, when Southfield ceased to exist back in the days, we were able to defend them by simply cooperating with our allies and the people that we are networked with. So in that case, for example, we have helped basically keeping Southfield safe, and at the same time, we have assisted the Panican when their server went down due to technical issues, and at the same time, the server attacks that they experienced. So those are some of the things that we have done actually for the AOR, and we are happy to continue doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. One of the things I am also wondering specifically is what are some possible problems you see with the AOR right now, and what are some goals that you want to have in place, or what are some current goals we already have to maybe make improvements? Because we've already stated that this organization as a whole is extremely beneficial, but how could it possibly be better? And who, yeah. That's it.
I see. Well, before I answer that, my guess would be, what's your opinion? What do you think that there are some of the issues that we might be working on? I mean, you are one of the newest guys around there, so you have a much more, neutral approach in this situation. Can you hear me? Disconnected?
Yep. I can totally hear everything. Just making sure that your statements are completed.
Okay.
And in terms of being neutral, yes, I try specifically just to be a more neutral party and someone who can discuss things with a variety of people. One of the things I love about this organization as a whole is that you're able to communicate with people from different regions, and the best way to do that is to be a neutral party who's willing to learn new things, willing to discuss with people I might not agree fully with. And the whole point of that, the whole goal of that is so that we can create a better organization, a more organized organization, but also an organization that has every single person comfortable with sharing their opinion and sharing their voice. That is, for me, one of the most important aspects of the AOR that we can improve as well, which is being just an open and neutral party in terms of willingness to get things done. One of the things I personally try my best to do is to give input on various bills and such that are being brought in order to at least have that process be more streamlined and have more voices in creating the very documents that govern the organization as a whole.
I see. You're cutting off a little bit there, but I got all the points. In my personal perspective, and I highly appreciate your input in this case here. In my personal perspective, I think that the AOR is beneficial, but some of the things that I think that we could be working on better is basically communication, because I see that a lot of regions, for example, and respective governments in this case here, they often lack to find the proper communication channels, and in this situation here, we should be striving as collective in this case here, and, as an organization ourselves, and we should be striving in order to find ways that we can incorporate our citizens in this process, and creating general benefits about how we can make, technically speaking, the organization more beneficial to our citizens and our regions. I think that the focus that should be given in this case here by the Commission of AOR would be the necessary amount of creating mechanisms of stability among regions. So mechanisms of growth, mechanisms of stability, and making sure that courts in this case here are basically upholding the democratic processes and they are completely free from any sort of corruption. So these would be some of the things that I think that every member region should be actually enforcing in their communities and creating basically job opportunities that people could actually bring that sort of experience back to the region. So, for example, an Enadian could be
Yeah,
working on a project in a different region, get that necessary amount of experience, and bring that kind of project back to Enadia. And vice versa. Someone could come to
yeah.
Enadia, find out how a procedure or how we deal with different aspects and different projects, and basically that project idea bring back to their region. That creates some sort of like a network of opinions, ideas, and experience, which is quite valuable, especially in online platforms, for example. And it can honestly facilitate not only growth, but at the same time mutual understanding. So we become members of this whole diversity type of thing, where people can actually share their personal and cultural ideas. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the idea of what you said about mutual understanding,
Hmm.
and specifically how this organization allows for a platform for us to discuss things. We might not agree on everything, but at least we have this understanding that what we're trying to do is benefit essentially everyone's experience.
Hmm.
Uh, and to go back to the, I guess, the original question of how can we continue to improve the AOR, one of the things I think that can allow us to improve the AOR, specifically as individuals in a region, is being very clear that we are here to create mutual understandings, that we're here to create these open dialogues between individuals. I think a lot of times, especially with these larger organizations, you or people in general forget that it's not necessarily region, it's not necessarily nations, it's communities and it's individuals within those communities who have a voice. And so one thing I've continually tried to do in order to just improve the interactions on the AOL is be very cognizant of the fact that people here are individuals. And so that might be what some might consider out of character, but for me, it reminds me that we're all, again, essentially human beings in this case, and we all have a lot to add to the table. And the best way that we can improve the AOL is not only acknowledging that, but just being very of every single individual within the AOL.
Well, that is actually pretty fascinating. I quite liked what you had to say there, and it's actually unique, which is quite fascinating because, I mean, you're a brand new member in Nadia. So my question to you is, since you're actually completely new, um, how's your experience in Nadia so far, and how's your overall journey by the time that you joined in? What impressed you the most, and what you liked the most in Nadia? And technically, tell us more about yourself. Like, how's your NS experience and
Well,
what is happening currently? Yeah, go ahead.
absolutely. Yeah, so it's interesting how I originally joined. I actually uh, was randomly looking for a region to join,
Hmm.
and I found the first region that had actually over 100 members. And I decided, what the heck, I'll join it. The reason I decided to stay were a couple of reasons. One of them was I really liked how organized the World Factbook entry was, specifically because it showed me exactly what's going on in the region in terms of opportunities. But then it also allowed me to quickly access the proper channels I needed to in order to, say, become a citizen.
Hmm.
The other really good thing that I first saw about the region and the first impression I had was how quickly processes in terms of citizenship went. And that's something I have not experienced terribly well with other groups.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as a new member who is rejoining, the entire game. I was very impressed by that because I saw that there's people in this region who are taking initiative, and there's people in this region who are specifically taking their time to ensure that I have all the information I need. One of the things I do like about this region is also the mentor program and then the training that we do. I think a lot of times
Oh,
when
yeah.
people go to a region, they go to the region, they get their citizenship or whatever, and they're kind of left there to float. And there's not a lot of questions that they can ask because they don't exactly know what's going on. One of the things I do like about our region
Mm.
is that you're automatically integrated to into the happenings, and you know what's going on, and there's people who are open, welcoming, and they're just willing to talk with you about anything really, but they're also willing to answer questions you may have. And so for someone who's new, I had a lot of questions, and I was interested in participating more, and I wanted to know exactly what I was able to do. And I think that overall the structure of our region allows that to happen very well. Specifically with in relation to the AOR, one of the things that I think we could use that is in our region,
Mm-hmm.
that the AOR could use, is having a more vibrant offsite forum
Yeah.
that connects to the Discord, and specifically when bills are being promoted or when bills are being proposed, having a general platform where everyone in the AOR can see those bills and everyone can comment on them. One of the things, again, that I really like about our region is that these bills that are about to be proposed, they're put on a public space. And so it's not
Mm.
just the government people looking at them, it's every single individual has the ability to look at them. And that really also relates to the comment I made earlier, which is I would love for there to be this open dialogue
Mm-hmm.
in the AOR. And I think seeing that in Enadia has shown me that it's an effective way of presenting a bill, presenting legislation that people can talk about. And I think the AOR has an extremely high potential to create effective essential legislation. But one of the things I would love to see is every single person being involved in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways I see that happening is just having an open platform. So instead of bills automatically going to the House or
Mm-hmm.
the Council,
Yeah.
having a offsite, possibly offsite forum, or even a separate server that just puts those bills there for every single person to see. I think as someone who's a fairly new member, I can sometimes be intimidated about a lot of the government channels. I don't check them because it's not. Sometimes it's just not my business. I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
But having that more open forum allows me as a newer member to at least understand what's going on and possibly make comments on the proposals
Mm.
and what is being uh, essentially legislated in the long run.
I understand.
What are your
I hope you didn't get too much intimidated with the initial training when you joined us.
I wasn't. No, it wasn't too bad. No,
That
it
was
was
too
just.
bad.
But I'm talking just in general.
Yeah.
So sometimes that can happen,
Mm-hmm.
which for me, I definitely saw some of the channels as being things I didn't really want to look at
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons. But one of the ways that that can be alleviated is by creating those very clear open channels, those very clear open forum
Yeah.
topics. And so people can come in not necessarily under any specific title, not as a higher up. They can come in as a member with a voice, and that's something I would love to see more in the AOR. And again, we have so many good things going on. We have very committed members. I mean, even just the other day, I was able to just communicate with a lot of people regarding these really cool ideas that they have.
Mm.
But I would love to see those ideas to be presented to a wider group of people, not just me. Sometimes it can be difficult for members who aren't very well integrated into maybe a position. They're just a general member. Sometimes it's hard for them to be able to make those inputs because a lot of the work is being done behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that work being done in a more open uh, forum. So, for
Yeah.
example, as a counselor, I have my discussion chamber. I
Hmm.
would love to see that type of discussion chamber to be in the general conversation because we already have a public and internal chat.
Hmm.
We also have feedback and we have a voice channel. But I think it would be really cool to have a legislative discussion channel
Hmm.
that's in the general conversation. So members who are proposing bills can see what other people think of them. And I think for me specifically, that is something I would love to see in the AOR because it's just a healthy way to increase that dialogue I want to see so much in the AOR.
Yeah, I understand. Technically, from much more technical perspective, and from my role as a site engineer, but at the same time as Speaker of the Canadian Parliament, I think what is fundamental for both democracy, the democratic process that we have, but at the same time to integrate people in a much more healthy way is that we should be all inclusive. And I agree with you on that thing. I think that the in terms of the AOR, one of the important things that we need to do is that we need to think about not just who we currently can serve. Like for example, we can serve everybody who's on Discord, but at the same time we have a lot of communities, for example, that they do not have the ability or reachability of this service. So I think what is very, very important in this case here is that we focus on creating features that could help massively also people that need accessibility features, for example. And I agree with the notion in this case here that yes, we need to have more accessible channels, and we need to have also the ability to spread that sort of idea everywhere else. And so yeah, accessibility features so we can help people that have who are who are basically people that they need actually to, for example, we have plenty of members that they are visually impaired, so those people should have the ability to actually not only view channels but at the same time find out what's the latest process. But that needs to be done between in a full cooperation between the council of AOR and at the same time the councillors, that they need to bring back AOR's word and events back to the governments in their region. So technically, in that occasion, I think that we should centralize the voice of people in one communication portal where everybody can state their mind, because that's the most democratic thing. And we should have a representative democracy where instead of actually having a bicameral party system, we should have actually the representative democracy where people can actually, feed all the voices and centralize them through their regional councils or parliaments, and from there later on to the AOR.
Yeah. One of the things I certainly have tried to do in the time I've been
Hmm.
counselor is specifically trying to give information to regional members just to ask them what they think. But then I've also tried, like I said earlier, to work with a wide variety of people within the actual organization.
Hmm.
And what that has allowed me to do is it's allowed me to ask people questions. It's allowed me to bring conversations up and bring maybe issues up with people who I wouldn't have expected to in the first place. And that started off because I was able just to say hello.
Yeah.
And I was able just to say, hi, I'm new. Or I was able to welcome new people myself into the AOR
Hmm.
and just have these open dialogues about them, about these new bills and then these new ideas that people are presenting.
Hmm.
Specifically, in terms of the representation, I definitely see representation starting off as counselors and then also delegates, just being very cognizant of the fact that they're representatives
Hmm.
and they're public servants. And so, one of the cool things I see are representatives of the AOR going and actually talking with their regional members and also bringing ideas from their region to the AOR. Um, and obviously, I'm not going to go into specifics, but recently
Hmm.
I've been able to see just some interesting ideas come to the table
Hmm.
because regions have different ways of thinking. And so, just like an individual, when we're able to have this representation, we're able to also represent the agreed upon ideas of the various regions.
Yeah.
And while that's created some conflict, obviously, one of the things that I have really enjoyed is seeing various representatives bring structures from their regions and debate and discuss how maybe we could integrate those structures into the AOR. While some of these structures may not specifically work for our system, it still is really encouraging to see how regions are being represented
Hmm.
in the AOR in this way, specifically uh, how we're able to present these ideas that regions have agreed on. Typically, a lot of the structures, a lot of the ideas that are coming are ideas that have been discussed extensively in the past,
Hmm.
and they've worked for these regions, which is why these regions are bringing them to the AOR because they see it as something that works. And what that does is it encourages me as an individual to examine not only Enadia's own system, but also examine how might other areas have a possibly more efficient way of solving a problem or a more efficient way of dealing with an issue. And all of that goes through the AOR,
Yeah.
which is just why another reason why it's just such a phenomenal central database essentially of ideas of information.
Hmm.
And people are able to come together and do that type of thing, which
Yes.
personally I'm very encouraged to see all that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this case here, we have plenty of regions that they are. I mean, this is leadership is actually a collective burden. Um, I love to see more regions and more people cooperating in, especially regions that they can produce more, assisting more, especially underdeveloped regions that they still need support and the sustainability process that they can actually, stand up on their own feet and they can actually run their own processes and they can actually go ahead and recruit more and organize themselves more. I think that regions like, for example, our own region, but at the same time, regions like Southfield or India, they have, or Africa, they have the great capacity and ability to assist more regions like Baniken, for example, to do more for themselves and get more organized. In Baniken, they have great philosophies in the region. They have a very unique and talented political background. They can bring more to the table as well. So that collective organization in the end and that collective and unique political environment can bring basically well, in a much more artistic way, a palette of colors in this case here, so you can see a much more politically and socially colorful background, which is essential in this case here. Alrighty, well,
Absolutely.
I think that this sums up everything for today's session. I mean, I understand this is the first session, so uh, next time we're going to be less stressed. We're going to be doing this one.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us in the first session for the newsroom. And yeah, thank you so much for everything.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Hopefully, we can have more conversations like these in the future, just discussing these general ideas. And I hope that people are eager and interested in hearing what we have to say, but also thinking about how that impacts the way they can interact in the AOR and in our region as well. I
Absolutely.
hope you have a great day.
You too. Absolutely. Next time, we can obviously bring more people, maybe from the AOR, maybe from the government, to have their own say. So we can have a much, much more
Absolutely.
broader discussion. Alrighty. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
tuning in the newsroom, and we wish you a pleasant day.